Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of Conversations with JR. I know that I'm a little late with this topic. I called it on YouTube, my YouTube channel, A Moment of Shame. But this is really about the slap that was heard around the world, that act of violence from Will Smith against Chris Rock. So before I get into the conversation, I would just like to say to everyone that I talk to the males in my family about this whole situation with Will Smith going up on stage slapping Chris Rock. And the one thing that they all said that they're not for or against what Will Smith did, but the only thing that they say is that you do not go after a man's family. Period. Regardless of what's going on with him and Jada and what's going on with Will Smith, you just do not go after a man's family. So my question is this to the black community. Why are we taking sides in support of Will Smith or of Jada for that shameful moment during the Oscars? That was a very shameful moment for the African American community. First, I want to know, did anybody pay attention to the fact that this is the first time in Oscar history where we had an African American, a black man, and a black woman producing the Oscars, having all and mostly African American presenters and entertainment. We were in control of the Oscars for the first time. Okay? Another thing that I wish people would pay attention to, because it took away from the spotlight, is that we made history on Sunday, March 27, during the 94th Oscars. Did you understand the presence of Latina and African American population was dominant? It was glowing. It was obvious. It was beautiful. It was just amazing. Now, Will Smith's behavior is a slap in the face for the men and the women who battled through slavery, segregation, Jim Crow's, beating, lynching. They were in the entertainment and acting field before he got there, and they had no dressing rooms. They had to go through back doors. They couldn't get on planes. They had to drive their own buses. They went through a lot of racial harassment and segregation. And what these people did is that they paved the way. They really paved the way so that the likes of Will Smith and black people on the whole can sit, stand, and walk where they are today in the area of entertainment and the fine arts. So that's just one point that I would just like to make, because sometimes people say one thing doesn't have anything to do with the other, but it's all connected. It is all connected. You know, our ancestors paved the way so that we can be acknowledged for our creativity and our contribution in society. A society that views people of color as less than deserving just because the color of our skin and because of gender. I just want people to just really engage and think about what they're saying and what they're not saying and whose side they're taking before you take a side. People are claiming that Will Smith's behavior is justified because he was defending his queen. Okay? No, I'm a female, I'm a queen, and I'm going to say this. No, because a true queen would have held him back. Regardless of what is and what isn't going on between Will Smith and Jada, she should have held him back. But she sat there. No one knew that he was going to get up on stage and violently slap a man in front of millions of people. But a true queen would have held her king back. A true queen would have laughed it off and dealt with the situation in private. A true queen does not allow her king to be disgraced and for his reputation to be degraded. Let's roll back the videotape, or roll back time, as people would say, about Jada P. Smith. She's a homewrecker. Point blank. She's a homewrecker who in recent years have begun dismantling and attacking her husband's manhood. Is anybody paying attention to that? and how Will Smith feels about all that's being said, written, and done against his family. But look at the dysfunction and look at the business that they put out there. Who knows how he feels on the inside? But she has been, his worst enemy. His worst enemy. She has been, a true queen stays loyal to her king, and she does not roll around in a gutter, lowering herself to the standard of a side chick, then publicize it, and have her husband sit up there and talk about it and publicize it. I thought that was just in such bad taste. The Smith family thrives on displaying how dysfunctional and grimy they live. People are saying that Chris Rock attacked Jada because she is struggling with alopecia. Were they listening? Were they really listening? Now, I'm not supporting Chris Rock and what he did, but were they really listening? He made no reference to her hair or her health condition. I say and stand firm that Chris Rock should not have attacked another man's wife. That's all I'm saying. He shouldn't have gone after so many other things he could have said or joke about. There's so many other things that he could have referenced. That slap wasn't about what Chris Rock said. It was about Will Smith's emotional and mental state, and that moment was supposed to belong to him, not to his wicked queen sitting on her throne of manipulation. The black community should be not condemning Will Smith, the actor, the man, the father, the husband, but they should be condemning his actions, not taking sides. Flashback. Let me take you back to something that you may think that doesn't have anything to do with this, but it does. During the Trump administration, the world witnessed the attacks on black community and the beatings and cold-blooded murder of black men and women. This was a painful reminder of how little this world cares about the plight of black people. Will Smith publicly attacked another black man violently. We need to address this situation for what it is. It was a moment of rage or weakness. It wasn't a moment of rage. It wasn't a moment of weakness. His queen was not under any physical harm. It was an act of violence. The public cries that Black Lives Matter, but do Black Lives matter to black people? I keep saying that. I purposely watched the Oscars to see Will Smith have his moment again in history. He was chosen to play the role of Richard Dove Williams, a black man and father who put his children's lives first. He put his children in a part of our history. He did everything he could to make sure that his children were able to survive as black women in this society. And Will Smith was chosen for that role. I wanted to see Will Smith, the actor and the gentleman, walk on that stage and take his rightful place. Like the men before him, Sidney Poitier, Heidi McDaniel, James Earl Jones, Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington, Lawrence Fishburne, Jamie Foxx, Terrence Howard, Forrest Whitaker, and Chadwick Boseman. I wanted to see that. And Samuel Jackson, yes, finally. It was a night to be excited. Now, in the movie industry, black men in the past were cast as gang members and drug addicts and dealers and sex fiends. However, brave men like Denzel Washington and Derek Johnson and Tyler Perry and the Wayans brothers, and just to name a few, has demonstrated to young black men positive role models. I'm not saying that Will Smith isn't a positive role model. I am not saying that. Hear me out. I am not saying that. Will Smith's action at the Oscar portrayed a real-life event that was once played out in movies. He became the angry black man. Question. Will, this question is for Will. Will, do you know how to draw the line between your role as an actor and real life matters? Because it seemed to me that night that he had a problem managing his emotions. Everybody makes reference to the fact that everybody was laughing about this, even him. And I think what happened was, I think Jada got upset because Will Smith was laughing at a reference made to her. Instead of grace and celebration, we were treated to a clown show. I'm ashamed, heartbroken, and disappointed. And to add insult to injury, the Smiths want to bring the topic to the red table. Hello? Could someone tell them that the damage is done? The damage is done to them and to how people are going to continue to look down on African American people, because this cannot be easily swept under the rug. It can't be swept under the rug. The Black community should stand firm and demand excellence from the people who represent us. There is no amount of tears that can erase that moment. I didn't even care about the award show after that. I didn't even care that he won the Oscars. I didn't care about his tearful apology. It just spoiled the moment. It was disgraceful. No apologies can smooth this open wound. We forgive, let go, and move on. But the world will never let us forget how one black man had one job, and that was to maintain his cool, and he failed. That's my story. That's my analysis. Not taking sides. This is Conversations with JR. And I hope that Will Smith will get the help that he needs. I'm hoping that his family will all get the help that they need and sit down and have a meaningful conversation about their lives and, what this has meant. I don't believe that the cancel culture and people should go after Will and start canceling his shows and start taking away contracts and all those other kind of things. I think that's just a little drastic. I think what Will need is a moment of healing, and I think what he needs is some support from us. He really does. So with that being said, thank you for listening to Conversations with JR. I'm also on YouTube underneath Conversations with JR. Join me, like, subscribe, share, and don't forget to have some meaningful conversations. I thank you for listening.